I've been working in cultures and organizations for close to 25 years. I've never seen something work so effectively with such a minimal amount of effort. But are you ready?
Dr. Mike Perko
is a renowned researcher, author, and professor at UNCG Greensboro.
His decades of research show how everyday habits have an outsized impact on health and how small shifts in behavior can rewire the brain.
What are we getting wrong when it comes to aging and longevity?
How healthy will we be? How functional will we be? A very large proportion of our population has musculoskeletal issues, knee pain, hip pain, back pain. It's a massive disability that's compensated through insurance companies. If you look at insurance charts, people begin to show signs of sickness in our fourth decade. That's the first time a doctor is going to say, by the time we're 35, we can almost project how we're going to die.
Starting to scare me, by the way.
Walking is the single greatest thing you can do to stave off dementia and Alzheimer's. Very simple reason why.
It sounds so simple.
And it is simple. You don't have to YouTube this. Just do it. All 7 living Surgeon Generals got together and put a statement out to the public. We are releasing this statement because of the #1 public health challenge in America. And it's...
Welcome to What the Tech, your gateway to business strategies and tech secrets shaping today's workplace. You know, Dave, there are some secrets to longevity, living long, and keeping a sane brain at times. And, you know, I'm glad we have Dr. Mike on with us today because he can help unlock some of those things.
Sane brain, mental health has certainly been one of these top subjects post-COVID. I'm hearing it every day, and I didn't realize how important our mental health was to our physical health. So having Mike on to talk about this is going to be very eye-opening, I believe.
Indeed. Welcome back to the podcast, Dr. Mike Perko. Dr. Mike.
Gentlemen.
How are you?
Now listen, I could not be better. First of all, seeing you two again, I don't know how many repeat guests you've had, but I feel like I'm on SNL, Saturday Night Live. How I get to brag that I've come in here twice. But all kidding aside, first of all, I'm doing really well, and I hope that both of you are. And I had a chance, of course, to look at your catalog of work recently. And just have to say, hopefully you're not the best kept secret out in the podcast world, because the number of guests that you've had that have been transformative and have had shared information that we all need has been something that you both should be super, super proud of. So believe me, I'll be singing your praises, not only now, but in the future. So I'm so grateful to be back.
Thank you. We're grateful to have you. Thank you for those kind words. We really appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you. And that's why we wanted to have you on today, because you're doing research, you're diving into things that impact nearly all of us on an individual level as well as a country. And there are some practical things that can be done, but I don't want to steal your thunder. So Dr. Mike, I'm going to ask you, when someone clicks into this podcast, tell them what your mission is and why they should listen to this episode.
Very quickly, I got religion about what my purpose is in life is close to my 60th birthday. Now, it's a little late in the game to be finding your why, as Simon Sinek would say, but you know what? Better to find it than never have found it. So I've been a university professor for 30 years, if you can believe that. I've also been a coach of youth sports for 43 years, and I never thought that what I do for a living and that my research areas, I teach public health. So first of all, my students are going to get jobs at the Centers for Disease Control. They're going to get jobs at local public health departments. When I say the word, I teach public health, what I really mean is I teach students about the importance of the public's health. During class, we may walk out into the hallway and everybody gets a drink of water. And then we'll go back to class and I'll say, how do we know that water is safe to drink? And it starts the great conversation of where does our water come from? Who's there? Who's there behind the scenes to make sure that, what we're drinking is not going to be detrimental to our health? I may teach a class outside and have everybody take 5, 6 cleansing breaths and then say, how do we know that the air that we're breathing is not filled with particulate matter that's going to cause us some conditions down the road? So when I say I teach students to help the public's health, that's exactly what I do. Now, getting back to how I found my why. So I've got an initiative. It's a mental health initiative for kids called 500 Fist Bumps. And I'll try to tell the story as quickly as possible. But when my son was 10, I have two kids, Jack and Elena. When Jack was 10, like many other parents, we tried to get them into all sorts of different sports just because it's socially acceptable, right? In your communities, if you have kids, you're probably wondering, hey, my kid is 5, 6, 7. I think I'll join the YMCA and get him in a swimming class or a soccer team or basketball. It's very socially acceptable to do. And so when Jack was 10, I signed him up for a lacrosse camp. He was excited because he loves all sports. But then he asked me a pretty critical question. He said, hey, Dad, am I going to be the only new kid at this camp? And I said, well, let me check. And I called the director and I said, hey, I got a kid who's never played lacrosse. Is he going to be the only beginner? And the guy assured me there'd be more than a dozen kids out there trying it for the first time. So we drive out there. And I knew within 20 seconds that, man, we were the only new kid there because it had turned into a team camp. So one high school team now was on the field, and my 10-year-old son, who was 4 years younger and a foot shorter.
My.
He looked at me and he knew right away, man, this is not going to be good. So I had to coax him out of the truck. We get out, and my vision of him to this day is him dragging his stick, walking onto the field as if it was the worst day ever. And it could have been the worst day ever, except for one guy.
Okay.
After about 5 minutes, the coach of the day called everybody over. And what he said next made Jack's experience go from bad to great. But what he said next changed my life. So here's what he said. He called everybody together, and there's about 25 kids. And he said, okay, boys, here's how this is going to go. We're going to be together every day for an hour, for the next 5 days. So every time you go through a drill, you make a nice pass, you pick up a ground ball, or you score a goal, you're going to get a fist bump from somebody next to you, for success. He said, but every time you miss that pass, miss the net, or don't pick up a ground ball, you're also going to get a fist bump because, yes, we want to make you a better lacrosse player, but we want to make you a better human being. And the only way to do that is to have each other's back through everything that we do. And that's the only way we'll become a team. It took him 20 seconds to say this. And then he said, hey, how many fist bumps do you think we can get in an hour? And one kid yelled 500. Guy clapped his hands. He goes, okay, let's go. 500 fist bumps in the next hour. Again, took 20 seconds to build a culture and a community where everybody knew what they were supposed to do. So I sit back in my lawn chair. I'm watching Jack go through these drills, getting fist bumps from kids that were 6'6". He's getting fist bumps left and right for the effort. But are you ready? The awesome thing was that now Jack's giving fist bumps back to these guys who are 6'6". He's saying, nice job, nice shot. He's part of the group. And I've been working in cultures and organizations for close to 25 years. I've never seen something work so effectively with such a minimal amount of effort. So that day stuck with me. Now, here's a caveat. We went through the week of camp. Jack loved it. And I watched him play other sports. And I always hoped that magic would happen again from another coach. And it never did. And it hit me, man, oh man, we were lucky to get one guy. My goal in life and my purpose and my why now is that every single person that our kids come in contact with has to be that coach, right? We can't be lucky enough to have one person make an impact. We got to demand that every person make an impact, whether it's in schools or youth sports, etc. So 500 Fist Bumps focuses on building intentionally connection and belonging on youth sports fields, rinks, pools, courts, anything that our kids can play on. And it happens at the organizational level. And so this is what I want to really dive in with you guys today, is not necessarily that we're lucky enough to have a mentor or somebody who makes an impact, but if we become a member of an organization, such as a university where I work, maybe your kid belongs to a youth sport, that we know we can sit back in our lawn chairs and we know our kid is going to be seen, going to feel like they belong, like they're part of the team. And we also know what an impact that has on their mental health. So thank you for giving me, 4 or 5 minutes to talk about what drives me every single day. And we'll get into why this is so important moving forward. So that's my why.
You were at the right place at the right time. And those are the types of things we don't know we're going to be there, right? That when an event can turn and have such a big impact like that, obviously it made an impact on you and left that much of an impression that you've become sort of like an evangelist for that type of thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Why? Because as you and I were talking before we started taping the show is, man, when you get older, you just want to keep things simple, right? We don't have to complicate things with videos and how-tos and all this type of stuff. The 500 process works like this. We work with an organization. We're in 6 YMCAs right now in the Greensboro area. And it's very simple. We have the coach or the person who's running the after-school program or something do a 20-second script, right? Basically what that coach did. We're all in this together. Show me how to do a fist bump. We're going to do this every time we either do something great or we are challenged and we don't succeed. But we're going to do it so many times that it becomes expected and part of our culture. The person in charge reads a 20-second script, and all their job now is to make sure that it's maintained. That's it, man.
So
No
easy.
video, no
So
certifications. It's really easy. And who doesn't, like yesterday, are you ready? Yesterday was National Kindness Day. Now, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of one day of the year being the day that we have to do a little something like give someone a fist bump. So you can see the focus is on changing the culture, not just having one person be sort of the kindness person. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. And I just want to say this for those folks that are listening to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, or one of those other audio platforms. If you're hearing bird sounds, it's because Dr. Mike is talking to us while we're taping this right outside his home, and you could see trees, and he's got birds and all kinds of other stuff. Just like nature, like it just I feel like going, just hold on a second. I got something for you. It just like takes me back a little bit and just relaxes me, like puts me in a different mode while just looking at the scenery and listening to those birds. So just know why that's happening for those folks listening on the audio platform. That takes me to another point, Dr. Mike, is that you and I have had the chance to talk a few times, and you made an impression on me about aging and mental health and how we all want to live and prosper. But that's not exactly what's happening. You and I talked a little bit about that. What are we getting wrong when it comes to this area of aging and longevity?
So we're not getting anything wrong, to be honest with you. Okay. It's where we start the process. I saw a quick little snippet yesterday. If you're not exercising in your 30s, right, you're going to manifest that in your 70s.
Mm.
Okay. There's a great statistic. Very large proportion of our population has musculoskeletal issues. And by that, I mean knee pain, hip pain, back pain. Okay. It's a massive disability that's compensated through insurance companies. And musculoskeletal issues, if by the time you are in pain at 35, ready? It could greatly impact your life where you may lose an entire decade of life. Now, let me explain that. Okay.
Whoa. Yeah. Bring it down. Bring it down.
Yeah.
Starting to scare me, by the way.
So let's assume this pain is chronic. Okay. You weren't in a car accident or something like that. It's arthritis, right? You've got some degenerative arthritis in your knees, your ankles, your hips, and it slows you down. Now, let's remember that when we say that we work for a living, we don't actually go out and shovel dirt anymore or crops. When we work for a living, we sit down, we adjust our keyboard, we turn on our audio and technological equipment, and we sit. So just as a function of our society.
Those folks
Yeah.
that are listening and want to see it, we've got it featured on our video side.
So we're already sitting, and that's going to, exacerbate the lack of mobility that we have. But here's the message that I'm trying to send you. When we're in pain, we move less.
Mm.
Okay. So it hurts even to walk or to lift weights and do the things we know that will allow us to live healthful lives with strong bones, and et cetera. So when we stop exercising because of pain, we gain weight. So now we're dealing with some obesity, and the comorbidities are the things that also happen when we're obese. All right. High
Mhm.
blood pressure, cholesterol may go up, pre-diabetes, metabolic syndrome, all of these types of things. So it's a catch-22 if we're not moving, and moving actually is a great pain reducer. But by the time we're 35, we can almost project how we're going to die.
Mm.
I don't mean to scare you, but we can see that down the road, we're going to start to get sick. And if we really, really don't work for a living, and I had a former student who studied truck drivers, long haul, over the road truck drivers, 8 to 10 hours a day in a cab with no access to sports equipment and stuff like that. they're going to die a decade earlier. That's one occupation that leaves the planet earlier than others as well. But here's an important point, and it's kind of off to the side, but it's not really. When my student would ask these truck drivers, he studied them every night at a truck stop for 6 months, and he would ask them, who is a person in your profession that you feel values you, and in your work as a truck driver, who's the person that makes sure that they know that, you're a part of the organization? And without fail, almost every single one of them said, the dispatcher, the person who's telling me where I have to go that day. That's as high on the food chain that they felt valued. I mean, they had bosses, they had all sorts of other people, but because of that, they really felt that their quality of life was not as great, and they're sitting, all of that put together, man, they're going to age. And really, I think what you're talking about when you're aging is how healthy will we be? How functional will we be? Those are the types of things that we need to talk about. You and I had a conversation. I don't mean to spill the beans a little bit here. You and I had a conversation about the benefits of walking, because we like to keep it simple.
Right.
Okay. Walking is the single greatest thing you can do to ward off or stave off dementia and Alzheimer's. Very simple reason why. When we're walking, we're creating blood flow and oxygen, and that goes right up to our brain and keeps our brain healthy, right? If it has blood and oxygen, it's gonna function for a much longer period of time. When we're sedentary, it's not getting the blood and oxygen it needs, and it, like anything else, it has a lifespan. So that's the good news. But Rolando, I'm going to add one more thing. Walking is great, but don't have it be the sole metric for staving off aging. If you can get down on the ground, and I know you have a son, man, get down on the ground and roll around with him, because what we call groundwork, just bending over, sitting down, getting back up, will help build our bone and also add to the equation of living longer. So word off of aging is keep moving if you can. Don't stop. Keep moving if you can. But God, half of us is going to have musculoskeletal issues.
It sounds so simple. I mean, I
Simple.
cannot believe how, if I'm just listening, you're okay, walk, get on the ground, do bear and crab walk and frog walking kind of thing. I've been seeing something on the internet floating around that as well, and how it helps mobility, because once you get older, I mean, you tell me, you're the researcher. When you get older, sometimes falling has more damage to the body and to your health than a lot of other things.
When you fall at what we call it the old, that's people over the age of 84, 85. Obviously, our bones have become more brittle. We had a chunk in life where we could make those bones really strong. And there's a point at which afterwards, we can continue to do some of the things they recommend. They're still going to become more porous and more brittle. That's why, we need to get on the ground and put some resistance on those things. And it is simple. You don't have to YouTube this. You don't have to find the expert in crawling on the ground. Just do it. Just get on the ground and pick up litter, rake some leaves. This is stuff. Dave's from the great Northeast, man. He knows about raking leaves. This is one of the greatest exercises you can do. One of my favorite sayings is a man or woman who chops their own wood is warmed twice.
Interesting.
Right? So you get warm chopping the wood, and then you get warm burning the wood. Get out there and just don't complicate it. You don't have to go to YouTube to know that walking and moving around a little bit is going to be good for you.
So I didn't realize that I'm doing better than I thought, and that my dog is my personal trainer. I have a little dog. Every morning I'm on the ground. I'm stretching,
Yes.
she's stretching, and then first thing I do is we go outside for a walk. And it's early in the morning, getting fresh air, I'm moving around, and I guess chopping my own wood. I chop my own wood, man.
I know you
I
got a
don't
lot
even
of
need
trees
a
over
gym
there,
membership. I'm feeling good.
Hey, if you-
All right.
You're living the dream. Now, look, if there's a hill in your neighborhood, take that dog up that hill and you will benefit even more.
Wow.
Which is hysterical, because one of the walks we take is around the circle, and I always go the way where it's the nice incline going up, because if I go the other way, I'm going down the hill. So I try to challenge us and go
Good.
up the hill.
Good.
Interesting.
Who needs more than that? If you like to lift weights, if you like heavy work on the weekends, gardening and stuff like that, by all means, if you're functional and can do it, that's my recommendation.
You'd mentioned something else to me, that there's a word that by the time you hit 40, doctors use that they never used with you before. Can you tell me what that word is?
Hopefully it's one word, not two.
Yeah. Up until about the age of 40, people are usually what we call, in good shape. Now, they don't have to run marathons or anything, but their body systems are all functioning really well. Okay. I tell my students in my class, ages 18 to 21, I'm like, you're in the best shape of your life. And they look at me like I have two heads. And I go, no, your body systems are in great shape. You get a cold on Thursday, and by Sunday, you're already feeling better. Usually, though, if you look at insurance charts, when people begin to show signs of sickness, it's usually in our fourth decade. You hit 40, and that's the first time a doctor who's taking your blood pressure is going to say, huh, it's not a medical term. Huh. It's because, they'll say, yeah, gosh, this reading's a little higher than it's been before. So right about our fourth decade of life, our body systems, which have really enjoyed good health, begin to not function as well. And what happens is we spike up a little bit, and then our doctor will prescribe something when they give you a statin or put you on a little blood pressure medication. And we come back down, buddy. We never quite go back down to that original level. And that is the process that we go until we leave the planet between the ages of 75 and 80. Now, what I'm talking about is called compression of morbidity. Morbidity is our sickness, right? If you say you have a morbid sense of humor, it means you have a sick sense of humor.
Dave.
Can we compress? What does it mean to compress? It just means to shorten, to tighten, to squeeze something. Can we compress sickness? Absolutely. I've just described it for you. Walk up some hills, walk your dog, get on the ground and roll around a little bit. You would be amazed. You would be amazed at how it delays, and in some cases can even prevent the onset of the things that are going to take us away from our loved ones.
Wow. Did you say that you were taken aback by your height and weight when you went in and they gave you some news on that? You want to share that, or?
Do I ever? Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for reminding me. Yeah. So
I couldn't believe it, but I find that amazing. I'm sure that other people will run into that. And so it may help some others that when they hear that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure I'm helping everybody in this listening to this podcast. Yeah. So on my 40th birthday, here I am. I'm running. I was doing marathons and really thought I was in pretty good shape. And I was, except for one thing. The doctor comes in, he goes, I got good news and I got bad news. I'm like, well, what's the good news? He says, oh, your blood work's fine. He says, gosh, everything's looking good. I go, well, what's the bad news? He goes, you've shrunk by 1/4 of an inch and it ain't going to get any better.
Oof.
Listen, I prided myself on being 5'6" my entire life. And now I've got to say the dreaded 5'5"3/4. And that's what happens is when we get older, we just begin to shrink down. The spongy part between our spine and our bones begins to compress.
Is that
Various
evolutionary?
things generate.
Is that evolutionary to preserve energy? I'm not sure, or is that just we degenerate as we get older? It's an inevitable thing.
We're only made to be on Earth for a certain number of years, right? We're just only made. Our heart is a muscle. It only has so many times it can beat. Now, the good news is in the 1900, can either of you guys guess the average age of death in 1900?
I'm going to say 30.
I'm going to say 37.
So great guesses, both of you. It was 47, right? Because we were dying of infectious diseases. We were dying of flu and tuberculosis and those types of things, man. And with great medical discoveries, and vaccinations and immunizations, we were able to double that. So now it's about 75 to 80, 75 for men, 80 for women. But the bad news is that's slowing down and actually maybe even reversing, right? We could be leaving a little bit earlier. But the question is, I don't know the answer. Evolutionary, do we get shorter? I would imagine we don't know why we age, and people can poke holes in that all day, but we do not know why we age. But we know that there are age-associated changes, right? About age 40, we have to go to Walmart to get those reading glasses, right? Also, maybe we ask people, what are you saying? There's some associated changes with aging that happen. Hearing, sight are a couple of them. Just slowing down. Doesn't have to happen, but.
Well, that's an important question. As you're getting to 40 or approaching 40, are there things that we could do to slow it down or delay the aging process?
Well, of course. And it's the things we've talked about, being a little more present in the moment, which is really, really hard to do. That's like saying today is National Kindness Day. It's just one one day. It takes time. It takes practice. Now, you are a function of a couple of things. You are a function of your parents. You're a function of your genetics. You're a function of your zip code. All right. So where you're born and your zip code either means that you had access to a lot of good resources, healthcare, good schools, all of that. If you're not born in an area that has a lot of resources, you're not going to get the types of developmental things that you need. And that's just a function of our culture and our society. It's called social determinants of health. And the World Health Organization has adopted this term, social determinants of health. So think about that, not medical determinants, not evolutionary determinants, but social. Where you're born and your zip code is going to dictate whether you have access to a hospital or not, whether you have access to good schools or not, whether you have access to a grocery store or not. So all of these things play into how long we're going to be on Earth and also in what shape we're going to be in.
You know, that you mentioned WHO and their organization that gather information and for public health reasons to disseminate that information. One of the things that I had the pleasure of asking you prior to this was when we were talking about public health, you'd said something about the 7 surgeon generals getting together and having an event. And you're saying, I think you'd mentioned to me that there's a thing that they absolutely were all crystal clear on. What was that thing?
I just want you to see this, right? So this is part of the presentations I give to community organizations that deal with kids. If tomorrow's future community member, employee, and youth coach is on your playing field today. That's why, Rolando, when you ask me, Mike, man, is there anything we can do about healthful aging? I'm going to tell you right now, yeah, we need to invest much more so in our kids and helping them feel like they're members of the community resource-wise. But let me lay out this. So all 7 living Surgeon Generals were invited to Yale, and all of them got together and put a statement out to the public. And what they said is, we are releasing this statement because of the #1 public health challenge in America. And it's mental health, and it's specifically the future mental health of our kids. So I'm going to read this to you because it is so powerful that it guides me. Okay. Health does not occur in the doctor's office or in a hospital. It occurs where we live, where we learn, where we work, where we play, where we pray. Everything that we do. Health happens in communities that are connected, that are supportive of women and minorities, that have childcare, and that have good educational opportunities. Social determinants of health, right there. Rebuilding our interconnected social fabric requires a deeper look into our relationships and how we show kindness and support, right? How we show kindness, not one day a year. We should really focus on building those stronger communities. Here it is, with the small moments of human connection that make a huge difference in how we feel and in how people feel around us. Boom. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. This is what the Surgeon Generals have said is the single most important aspect of our future communities.
That doesn't sound complicated either. No, it gets back to the simple thing.
It does not sound complicated at all.
But it sounds too simple. Where's the healthy eating habits? Where's the reduced screen time?
Yeah. And you know what? If we break it down in those ingredients and we go to YouTube and we look for all the answers, man, we're not going to find it. What needs to be done is to rebuild this idea that we are connected in the communities that we live with, right? We're building 6-foot privacy fences, but we're only talking to people that we know. I heard a funny comedian recently say Halloween is the greatest holiday in the year because it's the one time we get to visit our neighbors, right? We go knock on their door for candy, and it's the one day we say, "Oh, hey, man, how you doing?"
Yeah.
So this is from, now remember, Dave, this isn't necessarily a function of the parts. It's a function of the whole. So yeah, we're going to manifest some blood pressure issues because of the way we eat and by our not exercising. But if we only focus on those, the mental health issues for our kids. And I'm going to quote a line from a movie. If you remember the movie Jaws, and if you remember when Sheriff Brody was about to put some chum in the water and the shark showed up for the first time, he turned and looked at Hooper and he said, "We're going to need a bigger boat."
Yes.
Right? That's the problem we're dealing with. We're not necessarily dealing so much with sort of the smaller things. It's the whole.
Hmm.
The bigger boat is we have no clue, man. We do not know the size of the net we're going to need for future generations because of the things we don't know the outcomes of. We don't know how social media has affected 10-year-old kids 20 years from now.
Yep.
We don't know how school shootings have affected kids 20 years from now. So when I say it starts in the communities, yeah, let's get the communities connected. And then let's have this, Dave, and this is just for you, a walking bus stop where parents or guardians or grandparents, whoever, take their kids half a mile to the bus stop so they get a half a mile walk and they also get some social connection.
Right.
And then we reverse that at the end of the day and we go pick them up a half a mile. So they just walked a mile because PE isn't mandatory in school. So, dude, I am with you. I am right on your side. But to me, this was the essence of where we need to start.
It's great to be in a country where people that have all of those 7 individuals have a lot of degrees and a lot of experience and a lot of time. And they could have pointed to anything and said, this is the number one threat, right? But to get that many, and it crosses several different social and political spectrums to get that many surgeon generals on one stage. And for them to say, this is what we need to do, it's really amazing that that hasn't gotten more airtime. And
It's breathtaking.
and maybe because it's not something that you can patent and say, I'm going to put this pen and then stick it on me and presto, magic happens, right?
Yeah, that's the heavy lifting. That's where we can't keep it simple. Because to rebuild our communities, and when I say rebuild, I don't necessarily mean construction contracts, but just the idea that we're all in this together, that we can smile and we can wave and not have bumper stickers on our cars that separate us. Those are the types of things that are gonna be the hard thing to do. But it's gotta come again, not from one community leader. It's gotta come from everybody who's invested in where we live. So one of my goals is to have Greensboro, North Carolina, be the first 500 fist bump community recognized by our governor and et cetera. And how do we do that? Well, we begin with this very simple idea of connecting at schools. The minute they get off the bus, bam, man, it's great to see you today. Have a great day in the classroom. That comes from the bus driver, the teachers, then the car line. And it also will come on the sports fields, right? It also will come at the after school programs. If we get 50 or 60 organizations invested in just this simple act, these kids who are going to be our teachers and our police officers and firefighters and mayors 15 years from now will already have that connection. We don't have to start from scratch.
I love that. A former guest, I love that. We need a bigger net moment. He had said something, and we were talking about AI and automation, and he says, we're just not thinking big enough. Or for businesses, we're not thinking big enough on what we could do with this technology. Maybe we're not thinking big enough when it comes to how can we have the greatest impact on our society. And yeah, we go to the tech, right? We go to the toys, we go to the flashy things, we go to the injectable pens right now, seems to be what's on the minds of a lot of people. But the simple thing and starting earlier is key, and I think needs a little more airtime. Dr. Mike, we live in a society where people do want the fix, and there are people that are older, they don't have the luxury of, saying, oh, I wish I could have started this when I was 20.
Yeah.
And they may need something a little bit different. You shared with me that a heart attack, the numbers on it are staggering in terms of the financial toll. And it was an eye popping number. And we actually looked into a little bit on this. Ori, pull up that asset with an actual bill. So we were able to find someone that was quoted on Kaiser Health News
Okay.
who actually was billed a 6-figure amount, almost $109,000 for this heart attack that they had, and it was featured there. A jolt to the jugular. You're insured, but still owe 109,000. So the insurance company covered something like 55,000, but they still got a bill of almost $109,000. And this was in 2018. So today, that I don't think that figure would be lower. It'd probably be higher, maybe 120, 130, or even $150,000. Staggering. And I can't imagine the cost that's spread all around as a result of this bill.
Yeah. And I remember you and I had a great conversation about this. And it went something like this: Monday morning, 5 a.m., heart attack. That
Mhm.
seems to be one of the more popular times to have it. You're laying in your bed because it's not you, but you're laying in your bed and you hear an ambulance scream by your neighborhood and stop close by. So what are you going to do? You're going to get out of bed. You're going to look down the street, see where it stopped. And you're like, oh man, I hope everything is okay. So let's say that neighbor had a heart attack. All right. The meter has already begun in terms of cost. An ambulance was not free. There's going to be a cost to that. Let's say they're rushed to the local facility, which is capable of handling a cardiac emergency, right? You're rushed into triage, you're immediately sent into surgery. A physician is available, but they're a cardiologist. So that's going to incur a cost. Your surgeon is going to cost a large chunk of this. You're going to be saved. Your life is going to be saved, and you're going to be sent to the ICU where you're going to have recovery, and then you're going to be put on cardiac rehabilitation, get that heart stopped. But in that week, oh, by the way, let's say you didn't have a facility, social determinant of health. Let's say you didn't, and you had to be flown
Mm.
somewhere where that facility existed. That's a cost that you will incur. So in a week's time, a heart attack, which is right part of the most normal way for us to go, is heart disease. It's different for men or women, but heart disease is still the number one killer. Pretty amazing. That cost is going to hit you like nothing's ever hit you. So it's expensive to be sick. Can we compress morbidity? Sure. But you know what, Orlando, you and I also talked about something else. Do you remember we talked about the price of a heart attack that doesn't happen? Remember? What are the things that we can do? I say go to your doctor, not when you're sick, but when you're healthy, so that you can maintain that. Part of my job is working with corporations and worksite wellness. And our hardest people to get to participate are our most high risk people who are sedentary, obese, have some sort of recreational habit like smoking or drug use, family history. That's 5 right there. 5 risk factors for a heart attack or something else. They're the hardest ones to get into our programs. So let's just start when everybody's fairly healthy and maintain that.
Looked at that bill, and when we're talking about this in our production meeting, I was just imagining myself, just a person that opens an envelope, and all of a sudden, you're back home, right? Afterward, and the shock, you're like, what? I thought I had insurance on this. I thought I was covered. Yeah, if it's 100 plus, so you're talking about 100. Let's call it 150. Insurance pays 50. That's about 30 some percent. That's nothing. That's not nothing, but that's not the whole chunk. You're on the hook for 75% of the bill, 70%. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
That
that's
that's
wild.
changes your
one.
life forever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine why, and it is a daily occurrence. We've read something like heart attacks cost the country about $1 billion a day in terms
I
of
was going to say, yeah.
it's staggering, and we've done a lot. Yeah, there it is. The CDC Foundation put a price tag of about $1 billion a day in medical costs and lost productivity. So you can imagine, again, we're talking about team sports earlier. If you have employees, especially if you're a large organization, you have employees on the regular that this is happening to. So I can't, I'm a little bit shocked that more of the larger employers aren't doing more to address this. I mean, just even from a productivity perspective, you've got your team members that are, leaving and coming and going just as a result of this. And the aging population, I would imagine this is probably going to get worse unless some major changes are made.
You know what? Let me jump in here because you've just opened up a can of worms and a vital can of worms. But I want to make sure I'm hearing you. You said, I'm amazed that companies aren't doing more. Tell me what you mean by more.
As an employer, right? Prevention, like what we've been talking about, we know this is happening. We know that healthcare costs are extremely high. We know that the largest of the companies have a lot more control when it comes to the healthcare in our country and how it's managed. As an individual, there's this, I can do my own part, but as a company, let's just say, I know, like Amazon, they're a large employer. Walmart, they're a large employer. They can have the greatest impact on the greatest number of people by changing their own work policies, as well as saying, collectively, this is out of hand. we need to do something about this. And I'm sure if you got a roundtable of the top 100 CEOs and they say, hey, we're going to tackle this, we're going to make this like our going to the moon project because this is not sustainable. We can't run our companies if some of our best people are off the field and on the sideline, right? And the costs are unmanageable. I and I can't guarantee anything, but I bet that with those 100 most influential CEOs sitting at a round table saying we're going to go and tackle this, something will come out of it that would be productive for a lot, millions of people in this country. And that would have a ripple effect on whether it's a lifestyle changes, whether it's work schedule changes, whether it's how insurance companies put incentives in place to try to do what you're saying, which is, hey, let's start earlier. But at the same time, we'd still be left with what do we do today for those that are already further in age?
All right, man, I tell you what, you couldn't have set that up better. So let's talk about moonshot. All right. So, by the way, this is what I do. In fact, I've just written the fourth edition of the seminal textbook in this very area. It's called Worksite Health Promotion. Some of you might know it as Worksite Wellness, but I was asked to co-author on the fourth edition of Worksite Health Promotion, which is the textbook that colleges and professionals use to help run these wellness programs. And when we do risk assessments at these companies that you're talking about, we find out that there are people in three different buckets of risk. One are those high risk people, right? We don't get them on walking programs. We don't get them with a nutritionist. We get them the help they need and get their conditions managed, right? We get them with their primary care physician and say, we need to manage these conditions before we do anything else. So that's high risk. Medium risk, yeah, those are the people we get into our walking programs and Dave for better eating and all of that and exercise. That's what we do. But remember, there is a population of risk that we still want to work with. And it's young employees because they're asymptomatic. They don't have high blood pressure. They don't have cholesterol problems. They don't have pre-metabolic syndrome, but they sure as heck are doing the types of behaviors which will eventually lead them down the road. So my moonshot would be for all of these 100 CEOs to invest in their communities, right? Let's build some more recreation centers that don't cost an arm and a leg. Let's have every school sponsor a class or a grade at the YMCA. Let's do more to build that community when they're younger. I mentioned earlier that physical education is no longer a requirement in school. So what do we expect people to do? Many people can't afford gym membership. So my moonshot would be investing in the communities because they will be my future employees and they'll be healthier. And by the time they come into my system, we can manage it and not wait for it to happen, not wait for the people to shrink, okay, and not wait for people to hit 40. So that's my moonshot, and I'd be happy to sit with that group. In fact, I'd be happy to lead that darn group and move them in that direction. I'm ready. Let's do it. Now, even though we have an organization, and I'm hanging my head in shame because I'm a member of the organization, right? The American Association of Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. That's the membership organization that sets standards and stuff. But the states began to replace physical education with other blocks of things, right? The different types of classes, et cetera. And I think there's maybe one or two states that still require physical education in their schools to graduate as a requirement. So once that was no longer part of our day. And listen, my daughter loved PE, loved it so much. And then it became not mandatory. And she was just so sad because she loved it. It was part of her life. And I know millions of kids feel that same way. It's just not required by the states anymore. And we didn't fight hard enough to make that happen. Yeah. And I hang my head in shame because I was part of that.
I graduated high school in 96. Back then it was still like, I remember a group of kids would they had to go to summer school classes because they failed the PE credit. I'm like, you have to go to summer school because you forgot your gym clothes every Wednesday for the 10 o'clock PE. And it was like, I saw it every single year. There's always a group of kids and they failed and they had to go to summer school and it was because of PE. When did that get pulled out? So that was 96. That was still in
Yeah.
there.
So
And my son recently is like, Dad, we didn't have to do PE in high school.
So
Give me a
Dave,
break.
you were part of that last group in the 90s, especially if you're from the Northeast. They hung on a little longer, but there are very few states that require health information, health education, and physical education anymore. Yeah. Yep. You were one of the last.
Crazy. And it
Yep.
was one of the things, it was the one thing that kind of broke up the school day. Most kids that I knew thought PE was fun. It was nice to connect. It was nice to have some competition. Sometimes get out some of that aggression and then go back about your day. Yeah, that's a shame
Well,
it was pulled.
I'm going to give you my opinion. And of course, this is just my opinion, but it was at a time when we were looking at standardized test scores and looking at where we may have been second or third in the world or fourth in the world in math and science and things like that. And when a school board gets together and has to decide about curriculum, if there's pressure to do better in certain test scores, then some things may be on the chopping block. In my opinion, it was those softer but yet vital classes.
Yeah, it's come at a great peril. I think because even if it's just a block of time in the day where you're out, you have younger folks that are in class with third, fourth, fifth, doesn't matter what grade it, and you're out there walking, moving, running, playing. It wakes, like you're saying, blood flow to the brain. People that are at school boards, I would imagine a lot of them are very smart people. A lot of them
Yep,
are
yep,
very
yep.
educated, and they're open to science. I'm struck by the fact that we haven't reevaluated this part of the education system.
Well, yes, yes. And we live in a world with competing interests. But if we could have a school board meeting that had a walking meeting where we would literally walk around the track and talk about what was important, maybe that may change their minds when they realize how good they feel after that walk. And we say, hey, man, this is it. This is what we're asking. Just people that can get some 90 minutes of exercise a week, 150 minutes per week is what we're recommending, which is a pretty low level. I get 600 to 700 and I'm just fairly active. I don't crunch the miles out. But anyway, man, yeah, this could be a whole nother podcast.
Dr. Mike, you've said so much today. I really appreciate everything you've brought to bear when it comes to this topic. Is there anything else that you want to say that maybe we forgot to say or missed out on?
I am in the trenches with college students, and it re-emphasizes my mission. My dad is 99, and I hope that I live as long as he has so that I can continue with this purpose. I wholeheartedly believe, and I'm pretty seasoned, I wholeheartedly believe that if we wait too long for people to enter a system that's going to be helpful, we talked about people becoming employees of employers who now are got religion about helping people stay healthy. These behaviors, we can do free cholesterol checks and we can do free blood pressure and free memberships to gyms. But the things that have led us to have a little bit of high blood pressure, to have us have high cholesterol, et cetera, began way, way, way back here. And I have not seen a concerted effort other than lip service of putting the money where their mouth is and helping kids start their life in a way that by the time they're our community members, it's a great life. And they're not scrambling to pay $109,000 after a week of being sick of an illness that most of us are going to have a bit of. So that's all I could say is if you guys could help me spread the message about the importance of recognizing that the kids is when it starts if we want to have a healthy future.
We will do our part. We will do our part, and we'll do what we can to keep spreading that message. And I ask that as you gather more information, more things, and you're developing these programs, you come back on. I love talking to you and dropping knowledge. You drop knowledge on our program here.
Listen, you guys are more than gracious, more than cordial, but I have to ask if I'm on, I think Saturday Night Live, you get a jacket if you've been on 5 times. I'm just saying.
Right now, you get a Letterman letter. You're right, so that we can send you that. But
All right.
the jacket at number 5, that's when you can put it all together.
Good call.
That'd be sweet.
I want to thank our guest, Dr. Mike Perko, for coming into What the Tech and dropping some serious knowledge today. I know that I found it insightful, and hopefully you can take that back to your organization, and maybe use some of this information to make even a small difference, because a small difference will add up over time. And if you've been enjoying this information in this podcast, I want to invite you to go ahead, hit that subscribe button, because it does a lot for this channel. It helps us bring other wonderful guests like Dr. Mike Perko. And if you really want to support us, we've got links in the description to different business services that we offer. At Global Tech Worldwide, we help businesses tackle complex IT solutions. So if you're looking for a trusted business partner that's been around for over 20 years, take a look at us. Links in the description, so that if your business, you can go ahead and take advantage of it. I'd be remiss to say, if you thought that what Dr. Mike Perko was interesting, you may want to check out what Dr. Ellen Frank Miller uncovered by doing this one thing with a manufacturer that changed their employees. And that one thing helped increase their profits. Find out why in that episode. Wherever you consume your podcast, whether you're on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, go ahead and check that episode with Dr. Ellen Frank Miller. So thank you for joining me, Dave, and Dr. Mike, and I will see you